So today we have Isabel from Immersive Rehab. Thank you so much for being here. Could you give us an overview of what Immersive Rehab do?
Yes, so essentially we help people with neurological conditions recover better from an upper limb perspective. So we help them regain their independence, where currently it's really tough for them in hospital. So basically what we do, we offer personalized and engaging neurorehabilitation programs within virtual reality, so the fully immersive virtual reality, so the higher end VR, where we create interactive upper limb exercises, fine motor skill training and balance training to really improve patient outcomes. Where, for example, today when you have a stroke, you would have about 6 to 8 weeks of rehab within the acute phase within the NHS. But often they focus on lower limb rehab because that's a less frustrating rehab to go through for patients. If you're not able to pick up something, you directly, it's very frustrating if you can't use your hands, while upper limb rehab. And also the therapists or clinicians, they don't really have the tools, efficient tools to actually help patients progress in an engaging manner and an efficient manner from an upper limb perspective. So when patients then leave the hospital after 6 to 8 weeks, they often have very limited upper limb mobility, and that's really what we focus on. And it's a tool for clinicians to use with their patients or therapists to use with their patients, both in a hospital setting, and then we'll bring it into a home setting in a second stage.
That's amazing. I mean, would you be able to provide us with an overview of like the germ of the idea and how the idea originated?
Yeah, sure. So essentially I had an accident 9 years ago. So it was a severe work accident. So I had a head injury, neck injury, and severe vertigo issues. So I had really bad balance for more than 2 years. That basically left me immobile and in bed for a very long time. And so initially I had a lot of access to rehab, then that gradually decreased. But I was not mobile enough to do anything independently, so I basically had to wait for people to come and help me. And I have a background in mechanical engineering and biomedical engineering. Biomedical engineering from a hardware perspective, so I worked on implants and so on. But going through all the frustrations and all the isolation experiences, I just wanted to change and make it different for people in the future. And also often you go through exercises, but you don't really see the point of it, or you don't really see what progress you're making because it might be so minimal. But and that's really where the idea came kind of in my head. And then it took a couple of years before obviously I started the company. But yeah.
That's incredible. And so you're just trying to solve the problem and the frustration that you
had. I'm very much still a patient today as well. So
really?
I go through to physio once in a while, so when I need it. And yeah, and that's the main focus for the company. It's patient outcome oriented and improving that. And then all the rest obviously will come with it. But that's really because I've been a patient and I'm still a patient myself once in a while. So
they call that dog fooding. Are you using your own technology for yourself?
Sure. Yeah, obviously it is. I love what we create, and I think it's when we work with patients as well to see them going from being very down and not really seeing the point to just within 10 minutes you see them laugh with their therapist as well, and just change their moods and kind of get, even if it's just pressing a button, and then the physio can do anything else, but in settings, but having that sense of independence is something that I want to give back to patients.
That's amazing. And would you be able to talk about a couple of the use cases, because you mentioned a lot of hospitals kind of focus on lower limb rehabilitation. Are you doing both upper and lower?
So no, we currently focus on upper limb rehab and also balance training. So our exercises you can do sitting and you can do standing as well. So standing, then obviously it's to train your balance while at the same time you train your upper limb mobility as well, which is a big challenge for a lot of the patients that we work with. So we currently work with 4 different patient groups. So that's stroke, spinal injury, MS and ALS. So motor neuron disease, and within those you already have 2 groups, which is stroke and spinal injury, which in a way are abrupt conditions because you had it's through an accident or a brain injury, while MS and motor neuron disease, they're neurodegenerative, so they will basically progress slowly but surely. But yeah, in these cases, so we lower limb, we will focus on that further down the line a bit more as well. But for the moment, we're really trying to tackle where the big issues lie. And so we've worked with a variety of stroke, MS, and spinal injury patients so far. Going into ALS in the near future.
ALS?
Yeah. So they have other, like every condition, there's a baseline of exercises that we can use for all of them, but we really want to make it personalized to all, and custom to all the conditions, because MS has specific, has patients go through a specific kind of journey of how their disease is progressing, so that also requires a different approach to how they're rehabilitating as well. And that's the same for stroke, and exercise for stroke might not be suitable for MS. So that's really what we try to develop, to make sure that it's really custom made to diseases as well. So the patients we've worked with vary, so they're all adults so far, so between the ages of 18 and people in their 90s. So it's been very it's been great to see kind of the interactions within this big age range as well, where a lot of elderly people as well, they actually are very engaged and they want to see how they've been doing, where now they don't really get any feedback, or they just go to the session and that's it, and then they go home and they don't really have any understanding of how they're progressing. And that was often the feedback. It's like, oh, I would love to see how I've been doing and how I'm progressing. And that's really what we try to give as well, even if it's just a very simple a few points that we give back to the patients, and obviously the clinicians, they will have a full report.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, would you be able to kind of talk us through a couple of case studies in terms of? I remember watching an Olympic athlete use your technology.
Yeah. David Smith. He was incredible to work with. So essentially, we got to know each other in 2016, very early on in the journey. He reached out. Because he's a spinal tumor patient, so he was paralyzed 3 times from the waist down.
Wow.
Over the course of years, so it kind of came back. The tumor grew back, and and his upper limb was affected like a stroke. The time that we met, so part of his body was affected. It was his left side, if I'm not mistaken, so we were essentially, he was looking for solutions to help him recover better from an upper limb perspective as well, because when we met, he was already able to walk. And when he was telling me his journey, he was a Paralympic athlete, and he had a gold medal. He was a gold medalist for rowing in 2012 for the UK in rowing. So and then before he had done skiing and then cycling after the rowing. And just he was using constant visualization himself when he was in the hospital without any other. So he was using videos and of himself, people moving, walking, and even though he wasn't able to move his legs and part of his arm, then he was visualizing, I can move my toes, I can move my legs, I can actually do it. And so obviously he was going through rehab in the hospital then as well. And he was walking after 8 weeks again.
That's
which
amazing.
was incredible. Yeah. And then upper limb, it's again, as I said, often the struggle is harder from an upper limb perspective. It's harder to recover. And so we worked together very much, where he was giving a lot of feedback on our development process. For spinal injury patients, and we've been with him in a rehab clinic where he was in Gatwick, to be with him for the whole day as well, to really understand and let him try different things, so that he could give feedback as well. And obviously working with an athlete is very different than working with it's different and not different, because all patients, they're all patients, they all want to recover. So it is very similar.
That's really interesting. I mean, have you found better adoption with your gamified technology as opposed to physical therapy? Because I can just imagine having to pick up this pen after somebody's got a stroke and their fine motor neuron skills or their strength is pretty low, so they won't be able to pick up the pen. Have you found that people use virtual reality, so even though they're not picking up the pen, just the the thought process of actually picking up the pen, does that increase the neuroplasticity or an element of the brain?
So that's part of, we've done short-term voluntary trials, but we're going now into long-term clinical studies with the different conditions. And part of the studies is actually looking into that, because we have to study that over a longer term rather than, we can't really say on a short term how much we're actually impacting these neural pathways. Is it, so that's definitely, but yeah, that's definitely the concept behind it, because obviously when patients are not able to, so I often compare it with a Wi-Fi system, I guess. When your brain is damaged, the connection between your brain and your arm is damaged. So it basically destroys the connection of what is making your arm move. And we want to reinstate that connection by reinstating these neural pathways that have been damaged essentially because of some reason of a condition or an injury. But you have to restore that by doing repetitive exercises over and over again, because then if part of your brain gets damaged, you want to try to have another part of your brain that is not damaged take over that damaged part. And so by doing repetitive movements over and over again, you can try to kind of rewire your brain so that an undamaged part of your brain takes over and kind of shortcuts that damaged part. And obviously with visual stimulation, and that's currently what's missing with a lot of rehabilitation, is that they don't have that visual stimulation. They're not able to allow people to engage with virtual objects where they don't have the strength to actually lift up something. And it's very fascinating to see when we work with patients that it is so real, because people come out of the experience and they say, oh, it's so light, the block is so light. Well, the block does not have any weight, and that is only after a few minutes. And so that's the essence. But essentially, like if you forget how to brush your teeth, like completely, like using a toothbrush and everything, but you would just do this movement, your brain essentially does not connect that doing this movement would again link to taking a toothbrush, brushing your teeth. So essentially you would have to train it with a toothbrush, do it over and over again, so that your brain over time remembers, well, if you take a toothbrush, we can be asleep, we take a toothbrush, we still know what to do movement-wise. And so essentially that's we try to go towards that. And just give people more mobility back, whether it is only, at least we can give them a minor increase in mobility back. It is an increase in mobility so that they maybe are able to work or dress themselves. Are you guys beginning to acquire like data sets on parts of the brain that get affected when so that will be, is that further down the line? That's further down the line, so that will be part of one of the trials actually. So I can't say much about it yet, but that's definitely something we're looking into as part of one of the trials that we will be running, hopefully starting in 2020. Oh, that's incredible. So then like you'll be able to accumulate a good data set to... We acquire data obviously where we track movement and so on of the patient, but this is obviously another stage where we can try to understand how certain programs might change this brain behavior as well. So that's something that is part of the study as well. This is like a new technology. So how has it been introducing it to the end customer? Because I'm sure, unlike the fintech scene, where there's regulation that really helps the industry. I mean, there's a lot of regulation. I've spoken to a lot of like digital health leaders in the NHS, and what they've said is some of the regulation actually goes against technological innovation. And to some extent, you can understand it because you're dealing with healthcare outcomes. There needs to be some level of regulation, but sometimes it does obstruct innovation as well. How have you found introducing your technology to the end user? So I mean, anything in healthcare is very challenging, and that is because at the core of everything in healthcare is the patient, and you're dealing not with users that use an app like Spotify or anything else. They're actually patients that have a condition, and you don't want to make their condition worse. So that's why regulations are in place, and that goes as good for medication as it is for digital health tools. And obviously, because it's such a new field, it is very hard. Well, it makes it harder to, I guess, just introduce something within a system that already knows all the regulations around it, that has an established system. Where for digital health tools, regulators are still writing new guidelines, etc. So they're still working on really putting proper guidelines and regulations in place for digital health tools that are actually still under development as well. So whether they contain machine learning, how they're doing diagnostics. So I think it is very important as a company. Obviously, it's a barrier, and because going through a regulatory process just makes it 6 months to 1 year before you actually get approval after just going through the administrative process, essentially, of getting approval, depending on the classifications that you have of your solution. But the higher the class, often it will be between 6 to 12 months before you actually get approval. So that obviously makes that you can't go to market until you actually have that approval in place. But I think it's very important because you see a lot of the digital health companies have been kind of immersed within the space since the very start. And it was a bit of the Wild West in the beginning because people were just developing, this is a tool for healthcare, well, let's just put it out there. While, okay, if they would have changed certain things, it could potentially become a dangerous tool for patients to use. So that's why I think digital health should very much. It really depends on the application of the digital health tool, but it should be approached really in a regulated way because in the end you're working with patients. And you want to help improve their condition, not make it worse.
How have you guys navigated initial trials then? So are you guys using volunteers?
So the initial trials were all done in the UK. So we basically either hospitals reached out to us or we reached out to them, especially in the beginning. I have to say it's been great to work with the frontline staff, both public and private hospitals, so NHS and then private hospitals. They've been very open to having us. I've always worked from the beginning with the healthcare staff. Always they which was very important because it was very important for us to see how they're actually before that as well, there was lots of research and discussions with healthcare professionals before there was any development. But then once the development was started, we always went back to the clinicians as well to make sure that what we were developing would make sense for them and how they're using it as well. And it was very important. And then the next stage, we worked with patients essentially. And then once they kind of understood, they just brought in patients themselves as well to trial with them, to test it, to see how they're responding to it. And this was on a voluntary basis so far. So, and then obviously now we're much further down from the beginning. And lots of interest from around the world now. So that's been really great. So hospitals in the US, Canada, Brazil, Asia, the rest of Europe reaching out to work, to learn more, in particular to learn more and then see if they can work with us in some way at the clinical trial side or further down the line as customers. And so that's kind of been but we very much work with the frontline staff initially and really creating advocates, right, of people, because you said it before, it is such a new technology that the technology as itself is still evolving every day. So VR, the technology, the hardware
still
behind it's still evolving, still challenges. And then digital health itself has still some challenges as well in terms of adoption, reimbursement, and stuff. But that said, it is a very fascinating industry to work in. But education is a very big part around it, making sure that people understand why, that we understand why as well we're developing it. So making sure that once that education part is in place, then people will really get on board more and more. So
from a VR perspective, what technological advancements do you think VR needs to kind of I guess the right question would be what technological advancements would you be excited to see from a VR perspective? Because there are a couple of challenges, right? There's a profit organization trying to create the cloud really for VR.
Oh yeah, sure,
and there's field of view issues right now with the current headsets. I mean, what technological advancements would you be really excited to see from a VR perspective?
Sure, yeah. I mean, in particular within one obviously is to be able already kind of, I guess, to make it smaller, but that's something that will definitely come. But I guess from a really technological perspective, that is also very valuable to us as software providers, content providers, is to be able to stream content from the cloud in a reliable manner, which now is not possible. I mean, there's companies, I know some companies working on it, and I really hope they will come with a solution, which they will.
Yeah.
Which they will. There's and
5G helps, right?
Yes, 5G, because today streaming is not possible because of the data latency, the delays that are being introduced. Within VR is problematic because when we work in real time and you move your arm, but your arm is still here while you're here.
Yeah.
Essentially, especially within our case as well, we work with patients that have neurological conditions, they have vertigo issues, epileptic seizure.
The latency needs to be instantaneous.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so that's, so something in the future, I think that will definitely come.
Yeah.
And that obviously will get rid of the computer as well and so on. So that will be really great. Haptics, I think, as well, incorporated or together with VR it's still very, very early stage.
Yeah.
There are some great developments going on at an academic level and some companies, but currently that is also haptics that is usable in a healthcare setting. I haven't tried anything that really is useful or usable so far. So I think something that would be great if something would come in the future that we actually could use in a valuable way with patients as well to enhance our experiences.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you said that the phone's going away. That's an opinion shared by many VR founders here in London.
Yeah, well, in our case, it's a computer. We are using like the higher end VR. Yeah, if that, because obviously it's not an issue in the sense if you work with hospitals, the computer can be there. But on the other hand, it just makes it a lot easier if you just have the headset and you're good to go essentially. And you're also not dealing with maybe updates of the actual computer stuff and so on. So
From your perspective, like what regulatory frameworks kind of need to be in place in order to make VR viable and like a standard tool for, like, say, a healthcare intervention, especially when it comes to what you're dealing with, you know, people with strokes and people that are paralyzed?
Well, I think it's not as much coming from the VR technology headset itself. It's more coming really from the content creation. So in the sense that the regulation is around the contents. So where software is a medical device, the headset as such today is not yet a medical device. So I think that might shift in the future potentially if it's being used more and more so now it's kind of considered as a phone or as a computer, but a regulatory framework around using VR in healthcare, so making sure that the content we create within a virtual environment is actually safe for patients to use, is effective, it's improving outcomes for patients. It is also not putting any additional stresses on the patients themselves. So and then obviously within the analytics that we will do, making sure that that's another type of regulation around, well, if you predict something, it has to be what type of impact will it have to the patient? Is it very high risk or not? And that will change your kind of regulatory framework as well, because when you make some kind of prediction that could potentially influence the treatment for a patient, but if it's not correct, it could potentially be very detrimental for the patients. So that's so that's something really, it is very important. I think I don't like regulators are, I guess, a pain to just but they are there for a reason, and I think it's us as well as technology companies to actually help them understand, because they can't be experts. The technology is moving so fast, and obviously they have experts within regulatory bodies and they're expanding, but the technology still is moving so fast, so they need to keep up to date. So I think it's two-way. There needs to be more two-way communication that there is than there is today.
Yeah.
To ensure that adoption even more happens, because it is, validation is key. I always say clinical validation is key within healthcare, no matter what technology you bring into healthcare. As soon as it impacts a patient, you need to make sure that it's actually not affecting the patient in a negative way. Again, I'm speaking as a patient myself. There, it's I don't want to bring anything to the market that actually would have a negative effect on the patients in some way. So so it's really important.
Going on to business itself. So this has been a persistent stretch for you because you started out at Bethnal Green Ventures, right? How have you? Is that the only accelerator you've been on, or have you been on many more?
I've been
on
you
went
more.
on Microsoft.
Yeah,
right?
I was on the last one was on the Microsoft AI for Good cohort, the first one, which was a great program as well. But Bethnal Green Ventures was indeed the first one I was on. It was an amazing experience. I still I'm going to their demo day in a week from now again as well. I stay in close contact with them, and it was really the reason why I just decided to start the company as well.
Really?
I did this kind of music camp just before, which was very kind of confidence boosting. And I decided to apply for BGV, and I said, well, let's see what happens. I have this idea. I would really like to. I was in a full-time job still. Let's just see what the outcome is. And then I got accepted. So it was a now or never thing in a way, and it was the time as well. The time was right, and so I decided to quit my job. Still very much in touch with my colleagues there, but they kind of knew that I wanted to do this and tackle this. So I went full time into BGV for then it was a 3-month program. I just went full on in it, and the program itself is great because it's built by people that understand social enterprise or businesses that are driven by purpose rather than driven by profits only. That it can exist both as well, so you can generate profit but still make an impact on society, and that's really why I like BGV so much, is because they really have that kind of drive and ethos around what they do as well. And the group, we were very lucky. We were 11 startups, very different, but we had a really great group to just support each other through the journey, which was very important as well, to just keep going.
How did you find the Microsoft Accelerator? I mean, that probably got you a lot of exposure.
It was
very hard to get you on here.
Sure. It was a great accelerator program. It was very eye-opening as well, because I've learned so much about what's going on behind the scenes in Microsoft from a healthcare perspective as well, which is amazing to see. If you have the chance to look up a bit more about what they do in the healthcare space, it's incredible. Also, the Microsoft AI for Good Accelerator or program was set up with Microsoft and also Social Tech Trust. So it was a combination of a technology partner and this impact organization that was brought together then to really, because I came from BGV, the social impact or purpose driven was always very, and also because why I started the company was always very instant and present within the company, but because by doing a reiteration with Social Tech Trust and so on, it was really great to kind of rethink over certain things again, and how to really even more deepen that purpose-driven aspect within the business. And then from a Microsoft perspective, we had great workshops around machine learning, obviously, which is very important still for us, and still very much working with Microsoft today as well around.
Oh, really? So they're helping you post Accelerate as well?
So I'm, because of being on the program with Microsoft, the connections that I've been able to make within the Microsoft team and the technical team has been really extensive and very valuable for us as a company. I could never have gotten these connections that I have today by not being on the program. So that's been really, and then exposure wise as well, they've been really great. And putting myself on stage at Future Decoded, so the big event that they ran. It was a great experience. I would advise anyone that wants to be on the program, whether it's to learn how to use machine learning within your company, define your strategy further, or just improve your technology by having more connections within the space. And because they also have an immersive tech arm
Yeah.
in the US. That's also really great to kind of.
Were you able to test out the new goggles?
I have tested the new HoloLens too.
You have?
I have. Yeah.
How is it?
It's amazing. Yeah. So I can try it. It is because I had tried the first one. I had used the first one, which is great already.
Yeah.
But the hand interaction obviously was a bit different with the HoloLens one, where now you actually can just interact like a more VR-like interaction.
Oh wow! Okay.
Where there's a great video online you can watch how basically the HoloLens 2 works today. Much more interaction with your hands. So yeah,
that's incredible.
It is a great. Yeah. But it is a great also. I mean, they do lots of social good programs, projects as well. So they have like these. Different apps that they use that they have developed or help develop around accessibility in particular. So yeah, and because I was part of the accessibility cohort. It was just really great to see what actually you can achieve together.
Amazing. So. I mean, in terms of Immersive Rehab as a company now. Where are you from a company standpoint and a product standpoint?
Yeah,
Did you go through both?
So we are not commercially available yet because we need to go through regulatory approval still. So we need to go through the long-term clinical trials first, and then we'll go through regulatory approval. And then we go to market essentially. And the validation, as I said, is really important for us now as a company to make sure that we offer a clinically validated solution to clinicians. And from what was the other
product standpoint?
Product standpoint, I mean, our product is evolving constantly in a way, so we're still developing a lot more content because. One, to make it personalized to the patients, then make it customized to conditions. Also, if you would do our exercises, let's say for a full month, at the same exercise, or we have a few, so still it wouldn't give you the level of engagement if you can switch between programs, for example, to keep you engaged, to keep you motivated, to keep going. And also when you're progressing, you just need to do, you can progress into different types of exercises as well. So we're building a lot more content as well. So making sure that our library of exercises is actually very extensive, so that it can be almost really tailored to you as an individual. This is how you're starting, and this is kind of how you will be progressing in the future. So and machine learning there will obviously play an important role in terms of the personalization aspect. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. In a realistic fairy tale world, 24 months from now, what do you hope to achieve from a product and a company standpoint?
Yeah. Oh, 24 months from now.
Yeah. It's a long time.
Well, yeah.
Kind of.
Within healthcare, it's like
it's not a lot.
But within 24 months, hopefully we will have completed at least one of the trials, the long-term trials. We might have gone through regulatory approval and we're actually on the market. That's really the dream within 24 months.
And from a product standpoint?
From a product standpoint, again, as I said, really a lot more content being developed, the personalization aspects in place, more analytics around it as well, towards the patient and the clinician, and having kind of the solution really being used in a very user-friendly manner as well. So again, how the headsets will look in 24 months, that's something we don't know. So our product is a software, so we just go along the way the headsets are coming, or the other kind of maybe haptics that would be coming in, and then we'll be implementing that in our solutions in the future. But essentially, really just keep creating a lot of content going forward, and always working together with the clinicians and the therapists and the patients, as that is really key to create the best product possible.
Incredible. Are you fundraising right now?
Yes. So we're currently fundraising a big seed round to basically fund the long-term clinical trials in Europe, the US, and Canada. So we need to to ensure and to take the product really to a full commercial level as well, and to go through regulatory approval process to bring it to people. So yeah, we're hoping to close very soon, as anybody would say without setting a deadline on it. But yeah, that will really help us, one, complete the trials, also recruit more people in the company from different backgrounds, and yeah, just make sure to take the company to the next level, grow it in different geographies, and yeah, amazing.
I mean, you've been navigating this process for quite some time now. I mean, if you were to give your younger self some advice from a business standpoint, what would it be based on what you've learned over the last couple of years?
It is like, when was it? A few days ago, someone asked me, how are you doing? How's the company going? And I had two words in mind, which is great and hard. Because it's really great. I mean, I love what I do, and I haven't woken up since the past 3 years really thinking, oh, I don't want to go to work, or I don't want to start. Aside from I can use another hour of sleep. But other than that, I think advice is to always keep, to my younger self, is to just make sure that you keep yourself surrounded by people that support you, and that you have a good support network, both inside the kind of the entrepreneurial space, but also outside, so that you can just make sure that you relax as well, and kind of can get out of the work mode to actually recharge and keep yourself motivated to keep going. And yeah, just stay kind of curious and keep learning about the new things that are coming. I think that is something very important, because the rest you have to learn along the way. There's not really a manual to, well, here it is, just this is the manual to start a startup. And because there's so many struggles along the way, it's often compared like by many people as a roller coaster, but it is very much like there's so many ups and downs, and hopefully much more ups and downs. But yeah, you learn so much within such a short amount of time, that I think just keep believing in what you do. I think, and that, because that's not always easy when there's downs, but then the support group that you have around you will really help you to stay resilient and keep going with trying to make a difference.
Amazing. We'll go to a quick fire round. Most valuable purchase under £100?
My swimming goggles, maybe.
Your swimming goggles. Okay. Are you a swimmer?
I swim,
It's just, I find it really meditative and relaxing. A book that you would gift to a fellow startup founder? What was it called? The one from Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast. Thinking Fast and Slow?
Thinking Fast and Slow. I think I think that's a very interesting one. It is not specifically on startup life. I mean, there's so many startup books out there. I mean, there's one, The E-Myth, is Entrepreneurial Myth. It's quite a good book. But I think that because it kind of shows a lot of different thinking processes, which I think is quite interesting, just from a business perspective, also from a life perspective. So
amazing.
Thinking fast and slow.
Thinking fast and slow. What's the most valuable advice you've received?
The most valuable advice I've received is, I guess, just to keep believing in kind of trying the best in what you can do. I mean, you get so many no's along the kind of your journey in life, that just follow your passion. I mean, and that is often, it's also cliche, I guess, but in a way, in the end, it's the only important thing, because if you don't like what you do from a professional perspective, it's becomes a problem down the line. So and it's not always easy for everyone to just make a choice and change your life from one day to the next. But I think try and pursue kind of things that you love, whether it's on a professional or personal perspective, because that will really make you happy down the line. So
is there what's been like the most valuable failure that in hindsight has kind of set you up for success? It could be from a business perspective.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I guess, well, certain lessons from past careers, where I guess certain experiences in terms of communication lacking with other superiors, I think has I guess helped me define what type of business I would want to create for employees and that would be for me success, is having employees that actually like working with me as a person, and also feel that they actually can have a voice, and there's a two-way communication. And I think that is very much success in a business as well, aside from obviously bringing your product to market. That essentially does not make the whole company work. So yeah.
What gives you the most joy in doing what you're doing?
I think, I mean, the whole journey of the kind of working with obviously the users and the healthcare professionals. Also I love discovering kind of whether it's new technologies and trying new things to actually make an impact, to actually use a tool that could potentially change people's lives, and then seeing their response when they're actually using it. I think that's really what I really like about the space that we work in, because there's so many, I mean, and also the time that people give to us where they don't have the time at all. I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for that, because that's, without them I wouldn't be here as well. So,
what's your favorite restaurant in London?
Dishoom.
Dishoom.
It's one of my favorite restaurants in London. Yeah.
You a fan of Indian food?
I am. Yeah. I love Indian food. So and I've tried a lot of them around London. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So the one in Shoreditch, Soho, King's Cross, Covent Garden. Yeah. So that's mainly all of them. Probably.
Favorite beverage?
A chai tea, maybe.
A chai tea?
Yeah. That's quite nice.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on our show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, brilliant. I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah, cool.